I have a love-hate relationship with the word compromise. I love the idea of it in theory, but I hate the feeling of being taken advantage of, which is sometimes what compromise seems to mean to some people. And so that's what this video is about today, is what does it mean to compromise in relationships? Hi, I'm Kim Long, and I'm with Dochas Psychological Services in Spruce Grove, Alberta. So as you could tell from the intro, I can find it pretty difficult to compromise at times. And some people would think that it's about control, but that's actually not it. It's that not wanting to be taken advantage of. I need to believe that the person gets it on an emotional level, why it's important to me. And I need to understand when I'm compromising with someone why it's important to them on an emotional level. And it seems to just make it easier for me to compromise. Some of us were raised, I think, with this idea that compromise means giving up what you want and need in order to keep the peace, that their peace is more important than your peace. Others of us were taught, I think, that compromise is bad, that it means that you are not winning and therefore you are weak. And that can be really, really unhealthy for relationships. So it made me think, what does it actually mean to compromise? And that brought to mind the lemon story, which I'm sure some of you have heard before. There's this idea that two people go to the market. It's the very last lemon. Apparently there's a lemon shortage. And the storekeeper sees these two people arguing over this last lemon, like to the extent where it's almost coming to blows. And so the storekeeper asks them what they each need the lemon for. And one person says, well, I need the juice for cleaning. And the other person says, well, I need the zest for a recipe that I'm making. So in this instance, compromise is pretty easy. Once you discover the why or what they actually need it for, both of their needs can be met. The reality is that this doesn't always work in every situation, that sometimes somebody's going to lose out a little bit, right? The lemon story is pretty straightforward. And there's a great article that we're going to include the link to in the blog that kind of describes what to do in situations where you both can't completely have your needs met on a physical level or a materialistic level. But for us today, what this video is focused on is the importance of telling people that their emotional needs are valid, that that no one in the partnership is more important than the other person. And if we miss that step in the art of compromise, then you may as well just give up, because the idea of compromise doesn't work after that, because you're still going to feel slighted or angry or like you surrendered in some way. Whereas if you still feel heard, then chances are you won't feel taken for granted. That's the only way that I can think of saying it. So the question is, how do you do this? How do you make sure that your emotional needs are met? And so met. So I'm borrowing from the work of Dr. David Burns here as I talk with you, and he talks about the 5 secrets of effective communication. So I'm going to read a model that will hopefully guide you through this. So the very first thing that you need to do is you need to name your own feeling in your own mind. You aren't going to say this out loud. You're just going to acknowledge what you're feeling. And then, this is the hard part, you're going to have to take a little bit of a step back, recognize what you're feeling, but then also consider, what did the person actually say that you could believe is right? So an example would be, I've had people say, oh, Kim, that's such an emotional reaction. Yeah, I'm passionate. I agree with you. You're right. I am passionate. So you tweak it a little bit to make it work what works for you. But the reason why you're doing this is because it de-escalates the situation and it makes them more likely to listen to you. So the first part can sound something like, in your head, you're saying, man, I'm getting mad. It hurts that they just don't seem to care. But they're right, and I'm not really listening to them right now. So then out loud, you will say, you're right. I'm struggling to hear how important seeing your parents on Christmas Day is to you. And that must be frustrating. So you're going to also name what you think they might be feeling. And then you're going to follow up with your stuff, but focusing on how you feel. I'm frustrated too. It makes me sad to think of going to your parents' place on Christmas Day because I will miss watching the kids' excitement over their gifts without feeling like I have to rush them. I want this special time for us because it makes me really happy. It makes me feel peaceful, even if it's just for a moment. It makes some of the other craziness in the year worth it to have the reminder that we are a unit, just us. Then you follow with a recognition of the person's worth to you. Why are they important to you? Why would you even put in the effort of trying to understand where they come from? So it could sound something like, you and your needs are important to me too. I hate it when we fight. And then an invitation to collaborate on solving the problem together. This is where the compromise comes in. How can you and I work together so you can see your parents at Christmas and I get my happy, peaceful time with the kids? So it's not going to be perfect, and it actually doesn't have to be. Number one, people are going to appreciate, they might be a little freaked out at first. When you're doing it, they'll be like, who took my partner? What's going on here? But they will appreciate the effort that you're making, and you don't even need to be right about the emotion because they will correct you. The important thing is that you're trying to really listen to them. And the hardest part of this, the thing that interferes with it being quote unquote perfect, is it's going to be really hard to step away from your emotional response to try to listen to what they're saying emotionally as well. But that is where the connection comes from. And it's so important to understand why and how it is important to the other person. And again, from that emotional level, because that's what makes sitting with an imperfect solution a little bit more comfortable for both of you. And you'll both feel like you don't have to fight with each other to get what you need. So it's not about surrendering, it's about both of you feeling equally important in the relationship. So I invite you to remember that compromise is not about one person winning and one person giving up. That's not compromise. And it's not always a perfect split. Like in the lemon story, it doesn't always work out that way. But it's about recognizing that you have valid needs and so does the other person. Okay. So lecture over. If you liked this video and want to see more content, I invite you to press the subscribe button below. And otherwise, you could also check out some of our blogs at www.dochaspsych.com under the resources tab. And yeah, so until then, until next time, you just take care of yourself and best of luck. And if in doubt, write it down first and practice it, okay? But you got this. All right, you take care of yourself. Bye for now.